All right, let's talk about something that happens to basically everyone. Overthinking. You know that feeling, right? When your brain gets stuck on a thought and just hits replay over and over and over again. It is so frustrating. But it turns out this isn't just some weird personal quirk. It is a very real psychological thing, and the science behind how to get unstuck is honestly pretty fascinating.
So really, think about it for a second. Have you ever had a thought just set up camp in your head? Maybe you're replaying some awkward thing you said at a party last week, or you're stressing about a work presentation that's still a month away. That thought just loops and loops, and it feels like you literally can't change the channel in your own brain.
Well, it turns out there's an actual scientific name for that experience. It's called repetitive negative thinking, or RNT for short. And what I think is so important about this is that it gives a real name to something that can feel like a personal failure. It's not just you. It's a recognized pattern of intrusive thoughts that are, by their very nature, super hard to switch off. Okay, so this RNT thing, it pretty much comes in two main flavors: rumination and worry. And here's a good way to think about it. Rumination, that's like being a quarterback who fumbled the ball and now you're just watching that one single play on repeat for hours, analyzing every tiny mistake. It's all about the past. Worry, on the other hand, is like obsessing over the playbook for next week's game, imagining every single disastrous thing that could possibly go wrong. One is stuck looking backward, the other is lost looking forward.
But here is where it gets really interesting. Those two flavors are way more connected than you'd think. Get this. Research shows that a whopping 85% of the stuff we worry about in the future is directly sparked by bad stuff that's already happened to us. It's like that fumble from the last game is the exact thing fueling all the fear for the next one. The past and the future just get tangled up in this giant, messy knot of overthinking. So what is actually going on up there when we're trapped in one of these thought loops? Let's, pop the hood on our brains for a minute and see how the whole mission control center gets thrown into chaos when we overthink. First up, we've got something called the default mode network. Just think of this as your brain's own inner storyteller. When you're just chilling out, daydreaming, thinking about yourself, this network is humming along. But when you're ruminating, it's like that storyteller gets stuck on one page of the script, writing the same sad scene over and over again, with you as the star. Then you've got the frontal parietal network. This is supposed to be your brain's mission commander, right? Its whole job is to step in, take charge of your focus, and be like, all right, crew, that's enough of that, let's focus on what's in front of us. But when RNT really gets going, the commander just gets totally overwhelmed by all the noise, and it just can't steer the ship anymore. And rounding out our trio is the salience network. This is your brain's attention director. It's constantly scanning everything and flagging what's important. The problem is, when you're overthinking, this network gets totally hijacked. It slaps a giant flashing neon sign on that negative thought, basically screaming, this is a 5-alarm fire. Pay attention to this right now. And it's not just a game going on in your head. Oh no, this mental overdrive triggers a very real, very physical reaction through something called the HPA axis. This is your body's big red emergency alert system. Constant overthinking just keeps that alarm bell ringing, flooding your whole system with stress hormones like cortisol. You're basically putting your body in a low-grade state of fight or flight, all because of a thought. Okay, so if your brain is stuck on a thought, the logical fix seems pretty simple, right? Just stop thinking about it, force it out. Well, this is where the story takes a really weird, counterintuitive twist, all thanks to something called the white bear problem. I mean, let's just try it. What happens when you actively try not to think about something? It's like that old Jedi mind trick, right? These aren't the droids you're looking for. You're telling your brain what to ignore. But does that ever actually work on yourself? This exact question led to this super famous experiment by a psychologist named Daniel Wegner. He gave people a really simple but kind of impossible instruction. He said, for the next few minutes, whatever you do not think about a white bear.
So what do you think happened?
Of course, all anyone could see in their mind's eye was a big, fuzzy polar bear.
And the reason why is explained by Wegner's ironic process theory. It is so brilliant. Basically, when you try not to think of something, your brain does two things at once. One part, the controlled part, tries really hard to think of anything else, a red car, a green tree, whatever. But at the exact same time, another part of your brain, this little automatic monitor, has to keep scanning for the forbidden thought to make sure you're not thinking it. Which of course means it has to keep bringing the white bear to mind.
And here's the real punchline. After the time was up, the people who had been trying so hard not to think of the white bear ended up thinking about it even more than a group of people who were told to think about it from the very beginning. It's called the rebound effect. The big takeaway here is that trying to fight a thought, telling yourself don't think about that, is like telling Bruce Banner not to get angry. It almost always makes it worse. Okay, so if fighting our thoughts is basically a losing battle, what on earth are we supposed to do? Well, this is where modern psychology comes in with a completely different toolkit. It's a new approach that's all about working with our minds instead of constantly fighting against them. This right here is the absolute core idea. It's a total game changer. The goal is not to become the puppet master of every single thought that pops into your head. Honestly, that's impossible. The goal is to change your relationship with those thoughts. Think of it like this. You can't control the weather, but you can learn to watch the storm clouds pass by from inside a safe, warm house instead of getting caught out in the rain. So how do you actually do that? It kind of breaks down into a simple 3-step process. First, just observe. Notice the thought is there, kind of like you'd notice a car driving down the street. No big deal, no judgment. Second, you unhook. This is where you realize, there's that I'm a total failure thought again. It's just a thought. It's a mental event, not a command from headquarters. And third, you just gently refocus your attention onto something in the real world. Your breath, the feeling of your feet on the floor, the task you were doing. And this isn't just some neat idea I'm throwing out there. This basic strategy is the powerful engine behind a whole bunch of really effective science-backed therapies. You might see names like MCT or ACT or MBCT. They all have slightly different flavors, but they are all built on this same foundational idea. Stop wrestling with your thoughts and start changing how you relate to them. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, from our inner storytellers to those pesky white bears. So let's just take a second and boil all of this down to the most important things you need to remember from all this. Okay, so for the recap, first, overthinking is usually either about the past, that's rumination, or the future, that's worry. Second, it's a real thing happening in your brain, with specific networks getting stuck on a loop. Third, and this one is so important, trying to just force a thought away usually makes it come back even stronger. That's our white bear problem. Which leads to the final point. The real key is to change your relationship with your thoughts, not to control them.
And there's actually a name for the skill that lets you do all this. It's called metacognition, and all it means is thinking about your thinking. It's the ability to step back and just notice your own mind doing its thing. Honestly, developing this skill is like a Jedi learning to feel the Force. It doesn't mean the bad guys stop showing up, but it gives you this incredible awareness and the power to choose how you respond, instead of just reacting on autopilot.
And really, that's what this all comes down to. Your thoughts are not commands. They are not undeniable truths handed down from on high. They're just suggestions. Suggestions from a really loud, sometimes helpful, sometimes totally unhelpful committee in your head. And the real power you have is realizing you don't have to listen to every single one. You get to choose. So the only question left is, what are you going to choose to listen to next?